Welcome to Tech Talk Tuesday. I'm Zach.
And I'm Jason. And today we're going to be talking some tech news. Going to go over our news for this week. We're going to go over some backups versus hard drives versus NAS.
And then we'll end with a tip for you guys.
So today in the news, there's been a huge amount of pressure from Wall Street to stop people from hedging their bets against GameStop and other companies that were short stocked recently. I'm not sure if you guys have been watching, but recently a lot of companies have been betting against companies, what they call short selling. And what Redditors have done is gone through and changed that to where they've bought the stocks to kind of sort of bring them back up. So that way people couldn't take advantage of their short stocks. And this caused the stocks to go up tremendously, causing Wall Street to halt some funding and some trader sites like Robinhood to actually stop allowing people to buy the stocks. So
these stocks have targeted AMC and GameStop. GameStop reached a high of $483 per share. This was a response, and like Jason said, to the hedge funders' attempts to short the stock of GameStop, AMC, and others alike. A trending hashtag was hold with a rocket ship afterwards. These stocks were largely expected to devalue into nothing, but Reddit had something else to say about it.
That's correct. So just a quick overview. What that means is that when the Wall Street views a tech company or a company in general to depreciate soon, they'll do what they call a short sale, and they'll actually borrow stocks to sell them at a lower rate, to sell them at the current rate, and then buy them back at a lower rate, knowing that the stock's going to drop. Well, what Redditors did was actually get on and get a community of people that aren't stock exchange people, and get on there and actually buy a bunch of the stock, causing it to rise, which means that the short sale stock people had to actually buy it back at a higher rate, causing them to actually lose, I think it's up to $19 billion right now. But it made the investors, the small-time investors like ourselves, a lot more profit than just what it's doing with the stock exchange. So with that, Robinhood and TD Ameritrade actually stopped them from selling stock. You could still buy a little bit. I'm sorry, you could buy it, but you couldn't sell it. You could still sell it, but you couldn't buy it. My apologies. So what that did was cause them to get an immediate class action lawsuit the next day by all of the Redditors and people that have been investing in those stocks. And we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, lots of turmoil going on with the stock exchange right now.
The masses were convinced that this was a protection for the top range investors. The Robinhood CEO recently stated that they were asked for a $3 billion deposit to cover the trading risks on the volatile stocks. This is apparently why Robinhood imposed the trading restrictions, according to the CEO himself, Vlad Tenev. He told this to the world's top billionaire, Elon Musk. After Robinhood eliminated this trading, their clearing agency cut down the figure to $700 million.
All right, so keep an eye out there.
All iPhone and iPad users should update to the latest update, 14.4. Apple released a statement describing that 2 vulnerabilities were patched in this update. These vulnerabilities were labeled as a higher risk of exploitation than others. And keeping devices up to date is the best way, probably the best way to mitigate risk of attacks.
Yeah, you should always keep your phones up to date. If you have a phone and you have to do the manual updates, make sure you guys do that, because there are risks associated with not doing it. There are also risks with doing it, in the sense that some things might not work properly just yet, but they'll eventually get those bugs fixed. But it's always good to update your phones. And our last item for the news today, Series X and Series S of the Xbox Series, the latest edition of the Xbox, are expected to have long delays until June.
Microsoft's head of investing relations, Mike Spencer, revealed supply for the new Xboxes would likely be constrained until this time.
That's it for today's news and tech. Next, let's move on to the tech tip for the day.
For those who get water on their device, the best thing you can do is to turn it off immediately and call your local repair services like us, Jabbit PC.
So what happens is, let's say you spill a bowl of milk or a cereal or a bowl of water on here. You want to turn the power off as soon as you possibly can, and if possible, if you have a device that has a removable battery, make sure you unplug it from the AC cord and turn it off and remove the battery if possible. But you want to kind of sort of tip it over to the side like this and get off any residual water, and then let it sit until you can take it to a repair center that can actually open it up and physically get all of the liquid out of there. We had a laptop recently here that came in, which had water damage on it. They tried to dry it off as best they could. kept using it. They said it worked for about a month and then stopped. Well, the actual corrosion eventually bridged to capacitors, causing the motherboard to actually fail. So just again, real quick, just to get liquid on there, make sure you guys tip it over, get the power off, clean it off as best you can, and then make an appointment for a repair center to actually open it up and get any residual water out of the device. That's it for our tech tip today. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between backing up your computer versus system images versus what we call a NAS, which is network attached storage. It's always great to have multiple sources to be able to back up your computer. The three biggest are going to be cloud backup, a local backup, which means a backup on a disk or a device, and then the actual, we're going to talk mainly about today, which is the network attached storage, or NAS. If you have a computer, whether it be home, personal use, business use, whatever the case may be, you want to back up the device. If that computer that you have only has one hard drive, even if you're backing it up locally on the same hard drive, if that hard drive fails, that's the point of failure. It doesn't matter how many times you have backed up on that hard drive, that's gone as well. Just a quick overview on hard drives real quick. All these standard mechanical hard drives, whether it be a laptop hard drive like this one or a mechanical larger one like this one, this is a 2.5 inch versus 3 inch. These they have called platters and laser head readers. If this fails, like you can see the damage on here on this drive, that's no longer accessible. So any backups you had on the same drive are also going to be gone. So just so you know, there's a difference between these. The difference between these kind of drives and solid state drives is that there's no moving parts in a solid state drive, and in almost every aspect it's better in every possible way. It has less failure rate, it has almost no moving parts, so there's no heat or generation, and you can actually just drop them and they won't fail to the point where if you drop this one while it was running, it would almost immediately fail it. And that's the case what happened here, which where the head reader actually started making contact with the platter. So the one aspect where these are not as good is because data recovery is almost impossible on a solid state drive. Once this drive fails, if it's the board or the controller, there isn't a lot of uniformity right now between the different companies, so it's very difficult, if not impossible, to get hard drive recovery off of a solid state drive. Other than that, almost every drive is better in every other way. When it comes to a NAS, we have a lot of redundancy, so we're going to talk about that in just a minute. But on the simple side, we'll leave some links we'll leave some links down below for how to back up your hard drive or how to back up your computer. But just know that everything fails at one point in time. It's just a matter of time. You might be backing your hard drive up or your computer up or your files up to a jump drive. These fail as well, and again, these are almost impossible to recover. So with anything, if it's a jump drive, I would replace these yearly. If it's a solid state drive or a hard drive, I would replace these every 2 years. Even if you have a backup drive, these are backup drives here. These are mechanical hard drives, which we're referring to as well here. So they have a hard drive very similar to this inside of them, and these will fail. So just plan on buying one of these at least once a year. Last week we talked about UPSs, and if you have these hooked up to UPS, that's good, but even these will fail if they have a lightning strike or something like that.
The more backups you have and the more devices you have with the backups on them, meaning 2 or more items that are in different spots, the easier this process is going to be.
Yep.
If you wait till you have 10 terabytes of stuff to back up,
It'll take a long time.
It's going to take a little bit. It's going to cost you some money, but if you get on it right off the bat, this will be a much easier process for everybody involved.
That's right. We always recommend at least doing your local backup as well as a cloud backup or using a NAS, which is this device here, which we're going to be talking about next. All right, so network attached storage is the NAS. What this has, unlike these guys here, which are singular drives, whether it be one in your computer or one in a backup hard drive or using your local USB storage, this has multiple drives in it. So we're going to take a look at that real quick. So as you can see here, there are 2 hard drives in here. And if one of these failed, we have what we call a RAID system. So these are in RAID 1, which means that if this hard drive on top fails, this bottom one still has all the information in it. So you'll just take this top drive out, put a new one in its place, and then the bottom drive that has all the information on it, we'll put it back on the top drive. And you can keep doing that repetitively. This is a 2-bay NAS. They make these in 4, 6, 10, multiple bays, but this is kind of sort of like the basic least amount you can get in a standard NAS, which is 2 bays. On top of that, the NAS has a lot of other capabilities as well. So first of all, you have your redundancy, which means that unlike these drives, even the backup drive that you bought, if it fails, it's just gone if you don't have it stored anywhere else or on a cloud device. Like I said, with these, with the redundancy, If one of these fails, you just pull it out and put a new one in and you're good to go. They can also be used as a media center, which means you can store all of your movies, files, whatever you want to there on your home or business network. You can actually plug this straight into your router at home, and then every computer that you have on your network, whether it be your daughter, son, aunt, uncle, whoever you want to, can access those pictures or movies or music and stream straight from the NAS.
These NASs act as remote storage, meaning you have your computer, and then this has its own storage in it. This is separate from that on a network, the network attached storage, NAS, just like Jason explained. This sits somewhere else. It could be next to your computer, it could be somewhere else, but it is all linked within the software of your computer. So just like you would access another drive in the computer, you click on the C drive. Well, maybe this is named J, you click on the J drive, and you're into the NAS to store stuff in it.
That's right. It also asks for remote access. So if you are a traveler, let's say you have all of your work files on this computer and you're traveling to an event or a convention, you can still access remotely from the hotel or wherever you happen to be. If you go on to get a PowerPoint or you get some last minute photos, or let's say you had a proposal that you needed to work on, you can access this NAS remotely through any web connected device, whether it be your phone or your computer, from anywhere in the world, as long as you have Wi-Fi or internet access.
NASs can increase your storage capacity, but not necessarily all the time. It depends on which type of NAS you get, how much the drives you put into them, and what kind of RAID you run on them.
That's right. In this instance, this has 2 terabyte Western Digital drives, so it has 2 of them, which means that in normal circumstances, you'd have 4 terabytes of total storage, but in a NAS, since this is on a RAID 1, which is mirrored, you only have 2 terabytes of actual storage. You can actually have both information on both drives. But the nice part about the NAS is you can actually just plug in additional drives to this device and add your storage. You can have 4 bays, 6 bays, 10 bays after that, and just add your storage as you go from there.
So technically, you could have more storage in a computer, but you're better off keeping data on a NAS, because if one fails, you still have data.
That's right.
Aside from if the computer fails, then you have to pay thousands of dollars to get your information back.
That's right, and these NASs actually act like a little bit of a mini server. For a small business to medium business or a home server, you can actually have different file folders on there with different permissions. So you can have one for HR, one for your personal folder, one for the company, where you guys can share information. Like, let's say you guys want to have a form folder. That form folder would be accessible by all of your users, and you can set up different permissions for users from there. But that'll allow a person to, let's say, I just saved a file on here, but I want Zach to be able to access that. He can go on the J drive or whatever you call the drive and access that file there.
These guys can act as network video recorders, which we will get into what that is in a later talk. But you can hook up cameras and network PoE cameras to these guys, and they will save a video on, and you can connect these to a monitor to 24/7 display what those cameras are picking up.
Yeah, it can actually act like a mini surveillance system as well. Encryption. So unlike your computer or your other hard drives, these drives can be very easily encrypted, where you can have an encryption key to where nobody can get to them. Where that helps is we've seen several doctors' offices, dentists, places that aren't really doing much for HIPAA in regards to wanting to make sure their data is protected. So maybe the computer wasn't protected, or maybe their shared folder wasn't protected, but these drives are really nice to be able to be encrypted and keep that compliance in place. So if you guys are having any problems with HIPAA or any kind of, like, let's say your lawyer's office or a home office or something like that, you guys can encrypt that data and not have to worry about it being accessible by outside parties or ransomware.
Even if the NAS becomes full of its bays, they are still very scalable to other NASs that you can link together or link to a computer and have separate NASs on the same computer and network, creating more storage capabilities.
Yeah. These are not throttled by your internet service provider, your ISP. So like, let's say you have Cox, and Cox is throttling your data because you've gone over the 1 terabyte cap or whatever the case may be. NASs are not throttled by the ISP, so you can still be able to access those remotely or locally and be able to watch your photos or your videos or your music without having your ISP kind of sort of regulate how much data is going through. As I mentioned before, this can act like a mini server. So if you want to set up Microsoft and their whole suite of Microsoft programs, you can actually do all that with this device as like a mini server without having to spend tens of thousands of dollars on an actual server and all the storage capacity and having to have an IT person on staff to be able to run it. This can act like a mini server as well. The last thing it also does the cloud backup. When we're talking about having multiple sources of backing up devices, if you're going to do cloud backups, you can still do that with all of these as well. But the nice part about this one is if you already have, like, let's say Google Drive or Microsoft OneDrive, you can actually tell this to back up on the cloud as well. So in regards to drives and specifics on that, there are several free companies that offer you guys some amount of storage for free. So Google Drive has 15 gigabytes of space. Dropbox has 2 gigabytes. Microsoft OneDrive also goes up to 1 terabyte free with Office 365. So if you have a subscription to Office 365, you can actually get 1 terabyte of storage. Google Drive is 15 gigabytes for free, up to 30 terabytes paid. Dropbox has 2 gigabytes free, up to 3 terabytes paid. Apple Cloud has 5 gigabytes free, up to 2 terabytes paid. And so there's all kinds of sources out there that you guys get a lot of information back to for free. Or what we do is we pay for 2 terabytes a year. It's $100 from Google Drive, and we have our NAS backing up to that as well. So get your computer backing up to a NAS, get it backing up to a backup drive, but make sure you guys have your data backed up, because we've seen a lot of customers that have either been ransomwared or had an attack of some sort on their computer. And there's sometimes where we can't, if it's encrypted, we can't even access it. So they're just out that data completely. So one last thing is that the photo storage. If you guys have some photos and you want to store those photos, we recommend always doing a cloud backup with that at the very least. Apple Photos and Google Photos, Google Drive, both have free, where you can back up all your photos for free to a certain extent. The Google Drive storage right now is unlimited until June 1st, and then that's going to go away. But any photos you have on there up until that point will be grandfathered in, so no charge. But after that point, you'll have to add additional costs to get photo storage for free. If you have Amazon Prime, then you get unlimited photo storage at full resolution for free. So make sure you guys do that free services while you have the chance.
Asking for our viewers, what are we looking at for cost for this guy?
So this is currently 2 terabyte hard drives and the NAS. You can get this installed for under $1,000.
Which saves you money in the long run.
The max capacity on this is 2 16 terabyte drives, but most people won't get that. We usually have between 10 and lower on the hard drive size.
Many file recovery, if you didn't have one of these and you lost information, many of those file recovery services cost thousands of dollars.
That's true. We've had one person.
Triple what these things cost.
Yeah, one hard drive that's 1 terabyte alone cost one of our customers $3,000 to get recovered. We used an outside provider to do that for us, so it wasn't like us charging them for that, but that's how much they charged for one hard drive recovery that needed to be done overnight. Usually it's between $900 and $1,500, but it can get very expensive very quick, and that pays for a lot of equipment that does a lot more than just that as well, and you don't have to worry about trying to send it off, and that's if they can even recover it. So,
just like last week, paying up front is your better bet. Pay up front with the UPSs, save your devices from shock. Pay up front for the NASs and save your data from getting wiped.
Yeah, unless you're a big business that has the not only the resources, but also the personnel to handle a full server system, then a NAS is a really great way to have an in-between, not quite just each individual computer, but also having a little mini server as well. That's it for our show today. Thank you guys for watching. Please tune in next week for some more important Tech Talk information, and please look below for the links we have in regards to the devices we talked about today.
And our news.
Thank you guys for watching.
Till next time.